Welcome to this very special Distilled with a guest co-host. Today we have AweSmAsh from the Division series and from a variety of other content creator work on YouTube. Ash, do you have anything to say to the audience?
Hello, audience.
I worked alongside Ash on the Divisions project. She keeps that world spinning, and it's a great work amongst a lot of folks. I'm gonna put a link to that, both her channel and specifically to episode 1 of Divisions. Please, 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 if you haven't already, check it out. I highly recommend it. You'll find something for everybody, and be sure to stick around for the bloopers. And
Yeah, the bloopers are like the best part.
yes, they are.
Maybe even more so than the show itself.
So, today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about micro jump drives and the rumors around them. And this is kind of a misnomer. I just wanted to keep it, straightforward. But jump drives will be a module on a variety of different ships, and in particular, larger ships. But when I say the word micro jump drive, I mean that because there will be micro jump points that will be usable. The jump drive will be able to use both the micro and the full size jump points that will later come into the game. And the current rumor we have is that there will be a test jump point, a micro jump point as it's called, in the system of Stanton that we already have, that will be between Microtech and Hurston. And this is a very interesting topic, not just because of the excitement of testing a new game mechanic and being able to cut that time down to transit between two very long distance points in the system, but also the questions that come up around that topic of will this stay and what implications will that have for gameplay, organizational gameplay, kind of grouping together, and all those different topics. So we have a video here that you're seeing right now that will start playing, and we'll kind of see what a jump point is supposed to look like in the full scale between systems. So in this case, this was in CitizenCon 2949, and this was a preview of how a jump point would work between Stanton and the system of Pyro. So why don't we play that now?
You can have around, some places would have bigger stations, but as I said, the Pyro route isn't a very particularly well-traveled one.
But also with this, I guess with the cloud tech, you see the possibilities of us going in and mining that, and then it affecting your radar, it being booby-trapped, all these kind of gameplay possibilities, I feel, open up with these unique points of interest.
Do you guys think we should open it?
Yes.
I think we should go.
Yeah.
Let's do it. That's actually a super cool view. See that one? How good that is. That looks awesome. Okay. So going through a wormhole is a little bit like riding the rapids. You don't really have much. You have lateral control,
But it's being on a current.
But you're being pushed on a current,
Yeah.
and you've got to keep inside the boundaries of the wormhole. And actually, if Sam gets a little close, you'll sort of see interference on his screens. And of course, Stanton's just going away in the background, and Pyro's coming in here. Yeah, and you can see there's actually a current that we put in in the wormholes, and you sort of see the particles that are giving you the idea where the centerline current is. And you have to anticipate to keep on the course, because if you don't, and you go off and you go into the boundaries of the wormhole, you could end up just being spat out in just space in the middle of nowhere, or severely damaged.
No pressure on Sam there. You can clearly see she's got no pressure from the entire audience watching this live.
Yeah, no pressure at all.
Go around.
Though quite
bud.
impressive, it does look like she was using mouse and keyboard for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Mouse and keyboard gang.
Heck
we are
yeah!
now in the Pyro system, and we streamed out Stanton as we were traveling, and streamed in Pyro.
Who says you need sticks?
That's right.
The other side, by the way, has got an awesome
Yeah.
fly on the side. Yeah.
I think a lot of this cloud tech is going to be brought in for Crusader Orison. I think it's the same type of mechanics, except for the pressure differentials that I talked about in the video
Sam?
previous to this
Sam?
one yesterday.
Oh, I don't doubt. Like, probably
Send it right
all
to-
started from the
To the ruin station, Sam.
shoot. The like clouds by the mining.
There we go.
Oh, there we
hubs.
go.
I forget
Yeah.
what they call it.
Now, what's interesting
Ian.
here is you will be able to see a little bit of
Hit
the
it.
difference between a traditional warp drive that we're all used to right there and a jump drive. There's no mini game. It's very straightforward. It takes longer to get places. Because remember, the AUs that they covered between those two systems are
guys, good job.
extraordinary.
Good job. We made
Between-
it. No crashes. Woohoo!
No
Close
crashes.
Close one on the interaction. Good job.
Good job, guys.
I think he meant more of no crashes, as in no crashes of the game, not of their skills. But that was fantastic piloting there by Sam there.
Yeah, no 30Ks.
Yeah. But that's kind of the game here, is like jump drive mechanics are going to be on the larger ships. And like you saw, the Carrack is a prime example of a ship kind of meant to do this. It can sniff out the jump points with its advanced scanning mechanics, and then it can take advantage of them because it has a jump drive on board and has a very large power supply system. So one of the things that might come up with jump drives, they kind of hinted at it at the beginning of the CitizenCon discussion, was like possible jamming or people on either end of this jump system that might not be friendly. Is you might be at a disadvantage when you first land against someone who is, so to speak, quote, camping, end quote, the exit point, unless there's protection there or friendlies that can scout it from the other side and say, hey, it's looking, if they have that ability to talk to you, hey, it's looking good. When they're in the same system, unless the subspace systems are knocked out or you don't have comms outside of the game, like on Discord or Ventrilo, TeamSpeak, whichever you prefer, you would still be able to communicate that information. But if you're jumping from system to system, it is likely that you wouldn't be able to have good communication between workmates. Like, hey, there's a camp on the other side or something, until it's too late. So it is something to think about, is that you need enhanced communication. But these micro jump points that we're discussing here, particularly between the Hurston and Microtech, you would still be in the same subspace relay system, in the same system.
Yeah, we can't use comms when we're in warp now, can we?
No, and that's highly likely that it'll be the same way once you're in the jump point mechanic. But the jump system is very short. As you saw, crossing an entire system to system, at least for this example that they showed from Stanton to Pyro, it once it gets going, it is incredibly fast process. It is a mini game. It is more involved. You do run the risk of, if you fall out, so to speak, of the system, you're not paying attention and you're not riding the rapids, as Chris said, you might fall out and you might suffer some type of damage to the jump drive, damage to the ship, shields maybe, and you'll end up at a random point on the way. But it is something where you will not have communication in there. You'll have only this to focus on, is getting it right. The pilot of the ship will become very mission critical during that time.
That would bring in a very interesting game mechanic. Like, let's say a band of pirates, like they purposely go to a jump point and then leave halfway through it. They now have this base that's off grid in the middle of nowhere. But then I don't know, like, might they come up with some technology or ability to re-enter jump points halfway through?
That's great points, especially in EVE Online. That's actually how we used to play. Is you would purposely aim for a weird spot. Say you're at a jump, you just entered a system, and you warp to planet 3, moon 12 or something at 100. And on the way, you would slap down a waypoint. You just mark a spot, whatever random spot along the way. And if you really wanted to be careful, you would actually get that spot, warp back to it as soon as you landed at your destination, and then warp from that random point to another point around the system. And then whatever that second point was, you're now not even on a transient point where people could warp back and forth to find you on directional scanning. So it is interesting to think with the jump drive mechanic, we might see the first version of that, these deep, what's called a deep safe in Stanton, especially because Stanton to Stanton. So you're going from, New Babbage directly into the inner core, which would be Hurston in this case, type of planets. That's a very desirable place to be somewhere along that point. You can suddenly get a spot that's a deep safe in deeper parts of the system, or a deep safe that's in the inner core of the system. So it's a good point. And yes, I mean, will we be able to get back in the loop eventually? Will a jump drive mechanic, you fail it, you go through the system, you end up in a random spot. Will you be able to get back into the ether, back into that method? And right now, you saw the example from System to System, at least, of needing this large gate mechanic. Now, the micro jump point is currently considered for testing of the mechanic, and it's in the System to System. It is possible they're going to put these large gates at both ends, and, that'll be that. It'll be an institutionalized system where you need to get to this gate. But something in me tells me that I think a jump drive will have some capacity to be able to go on a very small scale, like within a system, by itself. And that would be really, really exciting to me.
Yeah, like, I don't know if... Maybe I'm sort of thinking about it because we already have the quantum drive. So it sort of makes no real sense for these gates to show up in Stanton. The only place where I can see it being of use is from Microtech to Crusader. Because that's like a 5-10 minute warp.
Yeah, it is.
And I can see it being useful there. But yeah, like whether or not it has a gate or not, and then like certain ships needing to, because you were saying that it needs like a certain drive to make use of it.
Yes.
So then does your drive have to like snuff them out? Is it going to act more like let's say a stable wormhole? I'm pretty interested in how this is going to go.
And also how the NPC companies and the UEE organization will kind of like handle this. Like suddenly having people be able to do the equivalent of teleporting. Because right now, the customs officials can pull you out of warp, pirates can pull you out of warp, but jump drives might not be impacted by Mantis blocking or the Cutlass Blue or other systems' QED drives disrupted by these mechanics. So being able to have a system of control over players would be more so at the start and finish of a jump drive system. And that would be something that is unknown at this time. I think it's something pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If you can get taken out by a mantis halfway through your jump, that's crazy. Like it would almost have to be shielded in a way. I don't know if it's like because I keep thinking about it in terms of like Star Trek. It's like the only other thing that I have in my memory to be able to go against. It's like Is it a subspace corridor?
That's almost what it is, isn't it? It's like an accelerated thing that throws you through subspace and then puts you out somewhere else. It's like a defined location if you do everything right. That's a big if, but
Well,
you know,
yeah. And then then that sort of has me thinking, well, in Deep Space Nine, sure, I think it was the Bajoran wormhole was stable on one end, but not the other. Like it would just throw you out at random places at random times. It was only stable on one end. Are we gonna get points like that? That would be so interesting if we were able to get unstable jump points.
yes, it would. It's something exciting to me. Here's an early setup by CIG showing the idea of people that are being able to explore and find jump points and then get cash by submitting them to UEE for cash, really, UEC in game, being able to find them so the UEE could exploit them or use them for their own means or share them with the community. I think there will be an interesting side effect to this, where as jump points kind of come into the game and become more prolific, there will be like piratey type of jump points. People will find secret jump points or recently opened jump points, and they may not want to share that information with anybody who isn't going to isn't going to pay them the toll, so to speak, to find out what it is, and isn't in their little friendly list of organizations they're associated with. But that's kind of interesting to me.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Reading through this, because like on here it has positional data, coordinates, angle of approach, type of jump drive, scans used. This sort of makes me feel like they're sort of going with a Mass Effect kind of approach to this, where these gates, if they are like gates, like the one we just saw in the video, like they're pre-built by some ancient race and then became lost over time.
That's really cool. If that's
Is how this form makes it seem to me. Otherwise, it would be like, I don't know, like a wormhole or whatever. You need like a special drive to be able to open it.
that's true.
I mean, we also don't have the coordinate system in the game yet. Like we kind of do, but you don't really know where you're pointing unless you have your jump drive on. So maybe it'll be different once it's arrived, but yeah, it makes me wonder if they're going like a Mass Effect approach, where there's some ancient race that made these before, or if they're gonna not have gates on all of them, and then only certain ships will find it, like the Terrapin.
And it may be that jump locations that are small, jump points that are very small, might not be worth the resources, or might be quickly occurring and then disappear, versus ones that can support some of the largest, if not capital class ships. And I could see like the different value being incurred, and maybe we need to build equipment to keep this jump point open, or it's a solid jump point. It constantly is rerouted to a new active jump point for this size because it's critical to the fleet. One of the key differences between a lot of the folks that ran for Imperator of the entire UEE this go around for the election cycle that citizens were able to back and pick who they wanted, was that there was a discussion of moving the core and the capital of the entire systems from Sol, which is Earth and such, to a new location that's more safe for jump points. The argument was that we keep too many resources near Sol because it's so difficult to find the large jump points to get in and out of that location, or there's so few of them. So we have to move through all these extra systems to get back and defend Earth, basically. You have to defend the system of Sol. And it was an interesting proposition to discuss moving the capital of the entire human race from that location, just because of jump point mechanics, just because of whether the ease of access and ease of defense for the fleet to be able to work in other locations around the Empire and then come back and defend if needed, if the Vanduuls show up or other folks. Look, it bears repeating also that jump points work both ways. If you don't have a bunch of well-established and easy access jump points, then neither do your enemies. So whether they be for PvP reasons, if there's players in the next door system that you don't like too much and they don't like you too much, trying to keep them away from you, it would be better to have a single defined jump point that you can keep an eye on with a scout while you're doing different things that are sensitive or critical to your ships. Maybe doing a mining operation, having a single ship that's stealthy, sitting near the gate and keeping an eye on things. Or for NPC lore reasons, having a bunch of different points you have to keep an eye on suddenly becomes it very hard when the Vandal invade, or an alien race has tensions with the UEE, and now we have to be called to defend it. It's interesting mechanics, to say the least. The best example I can think of is like a city like New York City having 21 bridges to keep an eye on. 21 different locations people can cross into the city of Manhattan, the part of Manhattan specifically. It'd be a lot easier if you had one, and if there's a problem, then all of a sudden you can just shut that bridge down, but when you have 21 of them, suddenly it becomes a lot more difficult to maintain and keep an eye on things. So
yeah, because if you do have like just one entry and exit, I can definitely see that being an advantage, especially if you're trying to keep yourself protected, like Soul. Yeah, just having one makes it really easy. It's much more difficult to invade. Then also it's, well, who has the larger fleet? You or the aliens on the other side of the gate?
True.
That's the winning factor almost immediately.
Yeah, and I think with these jump points, I think it is interesting. It takes a little bit of effort to kind of spool up your jump drive. But once you're in, it's extremely fast. It's breakneck fast considering the distances that are covered. And it also brings in an interesting dynamic. How would this work for group play? So an organization or an alien fleet or the UEE fleet or something, if you had a whole group of ships suddenly going through that jump point, would they need to take turns? So, okay, Idris K1, you go through. Idris M1, you go next. Idris M2, you go in after him. Like I'm thinking the UEE fleet, for example. But for normal people, for us mere mortals, I think it would also be an interesting dynamic. If we all suddenly jump through the point at the same time, we are better defensively if we all make it, because we all land at the same moment, and we can, if there is the bad guys on the other side or the alien fleet or whoever it is, we can defend ourselves better. But we might bump into each other in the ether there, unless it's a single experience. So each ship has its own wormhole, has its own inner space that it's going through and navigating as part of its own mini game. But they all appear at the other end, like as if they were all there together. So I'm curious if they're going to have that type of interplay there for when these systems, and this test will be a great test of that. Even on a 50-player server, which hopefully we'll see a higher player cap soon, but even on a 50-player server, I could see, at any given time, a few people testing this mechanic out, especially when it first is released, and seeing, do these ships bump into each other as a party? Are we able to go through this and not damage each other's ships? Or impact each other's ability to get through this riding through the rapids, as it's called in this. When you go rafting, they don't let all the rafts go through the good spot on the river. The rafting, usually raft 1 will go through that specific safe spot to go through that rapid, and then the next one will try, and the next one will try, and then the kayak that is escorting all the rafts will go through. It's usually a team effort. And it's coordinated, to safely get everybody through that dangerous spot on the rapids. So
I do think it's going to end up being like that. Judging by the video, it doesn't look like there's much room past the Carrack, or like any ship that's larger than the Carrack. There didn't look to be a whole lot of room.
You're right.
And the other aspect about that too, because you just brought up a really good point. If you can have multiple ships in here, and they're all at the same, like they're all going through it at the same time, and you can see each other, what happens if you do collide? Does the debris get spit out? Does it stay in the tunnel?
That's good questions, and I think that's something we're gonna have to test.
I can sort of see that being like, as a really cool mechanic to bring in a new ship. Like maybe the debris does stay in it and they have to build a ship that's specially designed to be able to stay in these corridors and collect it.
I would love that, honestly.
Like that'd be like mega hazard pay. Like you never know when you're going to get shot out. You don't know what's going to happen when you're in there.
Like a
And being
crucible
able
with a jump
to,
drive.
yeah, yes, collect all of that debris for the next ship to go through. And then that sort of brings in it's like another secondary mechanic of say you're just out in space and all of a sudden you just see an explosion. But there's like no parts. But you see the explosion. And the explosion happened inside the corridor. Or something.
Right.
I don't know. There's just many different ways that they can go about it to make it very interesting.
In real life, they have ships that have these Z drives, which are ships that have these 360-degree turning electric motors on the bottom of them. So they have like diesel generators that power the electric motors, and the motors are designed to work with GPS to sit in one spot. So like in oil drilling rigs and stuff like that, they can keep them in
Yep.
the exact position. It would be really cool to see like a variant of the Crucible or the Vulcan if it has to be smaller because, you know, for balancing or whatever. But it'd be cool to see a ship like that that had like 2 jump drives on board so it can literally counteract each other. So they can kind of non-linear edit. Like they can move from the beginning to the end. At any point they can pause. So it's almost its own little mini game where they can stop at an instant. Like, oh, there's the wreck. And then they can stop. And because they have dual jump drives on board, they can pause in that spot. And the pilot has to play this delicate ballet to stay in the circle, you know, stay in the pod the entire ride while his crewmates are working the problem, like salvaging the wreck or pushing it out of the circle or grabbing it and bringing it on board the Crucible or the Vulcan.
Yeah.
And that would be very exciting. You know, and it brings a whole new meaning to, like you said, hazard pay.
It's also like I can see a bunch of people testing this out when we get it in Stanton. What happens if you shut your engines off?
Great question. In Quantum right now, you get a very loud noise, a bang that's terrifying sounding, and then you just sit there in dead space. Like you just sit there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't instantly happen. It happens like a few 100K away from where you shut it off.
Yeah. Like now with that, so you shut your engines off while you're in this jump point. Do you stay in the jump point? Do you leave the jump point? Are you only stable in the jump point if your engines are on? Like, is the drive what makes it stable? Is the drive what makes your ship stable enough to go through it?
Yes. And even more fun, if, say, you have somebody on board who doesn't like you and they sabotage the drive, what will happen?
Oh yeah, it'd be like a suicide mission. But hey, if they're part of like a pirate org and they do not like you, I can completely see people doing that.
Definitely. It's something for sure that would certainly be possible. And, you know, I would be very curious. So we're not quite sure. The rumor mill is, and it's pretty good rumors, that the Hurston Microtech link will happen. And if it does, that would be a great step in the right direction, because suddenly players with smaller ships that accidentally spawn a new Babbage on Microtech could link up with their friends very quickly, because suddenly somebody in the inner planets could say, hey, look, I got a Carrack or another large ship. I can make use of my jump drive, get the heck out to you, pick you up. All you got to do is get to the station above my new Babbage, no big deal. And pretty much teleport over there. Complete the mini game, get over there, go to the station, pick up your friend, and come back. And just jump drive back. But
Do you...
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Well, it just brings up an interesting point of, will these become will a micro jump point like this become permanent, or is it just for the test of the game mechanic? And I hope it's permanent. I hope it's something like they could write something in the lore saying, hey, the crazy whiz kids at Microtech wanted to test a newfangled jump drive system, and they left it in because everybody likes it, or something like that, and it gives them more customers from the inner planets of Stanton. I hope they keep it. That's all. I think that'd be positive for the game.
I'm actually in the reverse of that. Only because, well, first I kind of need to know like what's the lore behind these jump points. Did we create them? Are they made by humans, or did we stumble upon the technology? Like these gates are already there and we're just using them. Like the whole Mass Effect thing.
Or the
But
Expanse thing, yeah, the Mass Effect.
yeah. Or is this micro jump from Microtech to Hurston, is this a new thing that humans have created? And if
Ah.
so, I don't know. Like, if they're going to keep it in because it was the like first successful test, that's awesome. Though realistically, for Stanton, I don't see a point to it other than being a test. Because even the smallest ships, like the Mustang, can still jump across the system.
That's
Like,
true.
sure, you're definitely going to have to refuel, but it can still do it.
And I mean, the whole system of Stanton is only 5 AU across, whereas Pyro, for example, right next door, is 17 AU across. 17 AU. It's over 3 times the size.
For there, it makes way more sense to not be a test anymore.
True. Especially with, it's going to be a rough place. Between the players and the NPCs, you're going to want every advantage you can get to get between the lucrative planets of Pyro that have very high loot scales when it comes to mining, and the way that we're hearing that salvaging mechanics will work and other things like that. There's going to be good looting to be had and missions to be had in Pyro, but they're in extremely dangerous space. UEE, simply put, at best sends a sortie over there to kind of pluck out the worst pirates, and that's it. And then they run away again back to Stanton or Nyx.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. But yeah, if jump point mechanics go into that location, like as in micro jumps between the internally to the system, that would be a good method to kind of funnel people back and forth, and it'd give you one more option at least. You can scout it out and see, hey, is there pirates on the other side camping it, or is there not? And
Yeah.
make that decision.
Another very like interesting thing, especially because if these micro jump points are going to be within system to system, like we have our test coming up, Microtech to Hurston. And this is also going off the speculation that this is a human-built technology. Does it use the comma ray?
That's a great question. Yeah, I never thought of that.
If you have buddies that take it down, does it just take down communications through the point, or does it actually shut down the gate on the other end?
And
Because
even
now
if
it like doesn't have any instructions.
yes, and even if it doesn't shut the gate down, does it shut down communication? Like, you don't know what's on the other side. Like, you don't know the status of the other gate. You don't know if it's being camped. You don't know if anything at all about that gate. You might be blind jumping into nothing.
Exactly. Like, yeah, what if they shut that gate down, but you still go in the active gate on the other side? What happens to you?
That's great. And that's example of like, we need this type of technology. I think everybody was hoping that Pyro is going to be this be all end all, because jumping between systems would have solved a lot of these issues. But what we're seeing, honestly, is that it's not so cut and dry. Pyro is clearly going to be a bit more on the horizon, and this test is kind of accelerating the jump mechanics testing. So when Pyro finally does come in, we'll have the ability to understand how it works, and it'll be ironed out a little bit more than if it was just blindly put in, and then we started from step one. How does this look? So
Like, honestly, from this conversation, here is what I would like to see the direction that CIG goes with. I want the big jump points, like the one we saw in the video, to be from an ancient race that we are just maintaining, that was not built by humans. And then I want these little micro jump points that are within systems, like Microtech to Hurston, those to be a new technology developed by people. And I hope that we get the ability to shut one end off and not the other. Like,
And yeah, then you get
all
those
the testing that
flashpoints.
we can do with it is way more, it sounds way more exciting to me just to see what you can do with the two gates. Pulling people out, shutting one end down. What happens if you get rid of the comm array? Like those types of testings is way more interesting to me than going to another system right now after this conversation.
You're right. You're right. Ash, you're spot on. I mean, like, one of the biggest things for me is exciting is the mechanics of this and playing with the forces of nature. And yes, I agree. Like, having like this ancient concept of like, I would even love to explore. Like, I would love for there to be like these ancient sites of like where they were testing the jump point system and it failed, or they have some of the equipment just sitting around, like these huge
Ooh.
mind-bogglingly sized amplifiers and equipment that is designed to like accelerate ships, and it's like in a test chamber, like this test chamber that's like the size of 16 football fields long, and you see it like explode from one direction to the other from like this test ship, the ship you've never recognized before. Like, how exciting that would be to me, like exploring these ancient
Oh,
sites. Like, I would love
could you
that.
imagine? Could you
Yeah.
imagine two ancient ships? Like this is part of like their first testing before they
Yes.
get these giant gates built. And they decide, okay, well, what happens if we put two ships from each end at the same time? And they just like fuse together in the middle.
Yes, and UEE, and it turns out UEE has a cover up or something like that, or the Banyu found this, and they immediately tried to backtrack everything and try to say it's theirs, like, because that's the way the Banyu are, like they hide information and they want to make it as critical as possible for them to look like the good guys in all this, and who knows, the Banyu do deals with the Vanyu with the Vandul, and sorry. I'm gonna get heck for my viewers. Ba Nu. Sorry, Ba Nu. I'm learning. I promise. I'm learning. I'm learning how to pronounce these names. But the Ba Nu have a lot of negotiations with the Vandul, and they do deals with them. So it would be really interesting to see. They got a hold of this secret technology, and now all of a sudden they're mad at you because you found out that it was all a sham. There was this ancient technology they got a hold of, and they all of a sudden they have like a market monopoly on. Now all of a sudden they don't because you found it, and obviously other citizens found it as well. But that would be fun. It'd be just a very fun side note. I think they need to do more of that, where they flesh out the alien races and what they create and how they created it, and what dynamics that brings. Because
Yeah,
right,
and like their ancestors too. Because not even
yeah,
thinking about like what we have now, but this is going back to my like previous little statement of if the larger gates are from an alien race that were lost and then found or something, even
mm-hmm,
if not, even okay, let's say there's some alien race in the future that we don't know about yet, but they're
yeah.
still around. What other technologies of theirs are we going to find on other planets?
Well, that's honestly, part of it is that unknown. That's okay. In Star Wars Galaxies, it was like that as well. Like we had no idea. The little bit of time I could get a hold of a credit card to be able to have a membership to Star Wars Galaxies when I was a kid, teenager, it was very exciting to know like what a Jedi was, but nobody knew. Nobody knew how to become a Jedi, and it was like the unknown factor that made it truly exciting, and that it was out there somewhere. We need to keep looking and finding and exploring, and any little thing that had like any unknown, like, what is this for, was suddenly like, oh, is that for the Jedi? Let's keep that close to our chest, and let's only trade that with like our key friends, like, on this side of this
Yeah.
side of the planet. And I feel like that type of part of Star Citizen needs to be unveloped, like the training and the exercises, and the interplay of players communicating secret information they find. And
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of people have this indication of like, oh, wikis are going to have everything, and I don't think so.
I I think wikis are going to have a lot, but I also see I don't know how it is. I actually don't even know if you're part of an org or not. The org that I'm in, for now, is very military heavy, mostly because the gameplay for science and exploration is really not in yet. But the moment these gates are put in, oh man, that is a huge boom for science and exploration chapters in
Yeah.
orgs.
I'm
And
yeah.
that would also then play into like business and logistics. Are they gonna like have a toll to go into the gate? Just adding these gates adds so much more gameplay for orgs than I can't even think of everything that it's going to do. I think it's going to add a ton.
Yeah, and that's a lot of things. Like, for the record, I'm a member of a bunch of different orgs. I think I'm even in the 890 Jump Club, even though I technically have my 890 Jump sitting in buyback. Long story. But I have the Church of Orion, which is a bunch of refugees from EVE Online. It's in its joke. It's not actually a religious organization. But we're almost a cult is the end joke. I'm a member of a whole bunch of different orgs, but I love joining different orgs. I love being affiliated with different orgs and being friends with them. I think right what you just said was like the starting point. Like if your group was interested in doing science and exploration, I would be in a heartbeat, regardless if I'm in your org or not. I'd be trying to ham in on that. Like just like hey, just let me be a
Yeah.
crewmate. Let me just come along with that type of adventure.
Like, that was how I started off in my org. I started in science and exploration, but there's just nothing to do.
That's
Like pretty
true.
much everything in Stanton has been found. Wiki has pretty much everything. Like you can find what is it? I think it's like Verse Guide has methods on how to get to every location pretty much.
If
And
you
it's
hit
like,
that
well,
B key,
at that
you see
point,
everything.
like what do you do?
Exactly. You hit that B key, you see everything in Stanton. And that's just not
Yeah.
conducive to exploration. There
Well,
needs to be dynamic events, there needs to be multiple systems to explore.
yeah. Even the even the like sites that don't show up when you hit the B key, like for our filming, that crash site on Selin,
That's
that
true.
doesn't show up.
That's true.
But Verse Guides has a method where you go to like Ohm 1 and then you go to like Ohm 5 and you do these like measurements and then oh it's like it's right below you. Everything has been mapped.
Now, for that site, for example, let's say a cat crash site. Yeah, I bet you I can find it really fast.
Yeah, it's yeah, if like you go to Verse Guides and then you can like pick the planet Selin and then there's like a little slider where you're like, yes, I want to see hidden locations. Then you click on Caterpillar Site A and then there's like a tab that's navigation and it tells you exactly how to get to it.
And that's unfortunate because once again, it's all about exploration. Like, I mean, I guess I got mixed feelings. Like, I mean, I understand some people have limited time. They want to experience a lot of the different exciting things to see, but there should
Yep.
be some things that are not, easily accessible. That are not like these basic things to find. Now, that was interesting with that site. There's two
And
levels to that. That's not the exact one because ours that we were filming at has like a little somebody put like a little ramp there.
yep. And I also get it like from the explorer's standpoint, having everything listed out already is incredibly boring. But then from my standpoint, being a content creator, it's like, heck yeah, I don't have to search for this.
Good point, fair point. And there should be a solid amount of dynamic gameplay that is able to flesh out these systems. And I said the word systems. I think that's the important thing here. That once we have Pyro in, we have Nyx in, we're able to start seeing an entire constellation of systems be fleshed out. There's enough room, I think, at the end for content creators and also for explorers that are looking for different things. There can be multiple Caterpillar crash sites. There can be multiple Caterpillar crash sites even at these style moons that are high contrast, that are good for this type of content creation. And for the record,
Yep.
I think you found a great spot. I mean, I think that for our shoots, that's fantastic. Even for like
I just happen to
landing
be
sites.
really lucky that it's in the daytime whenever we go there.
And that's another example for content creation that we have an issue with. That was one of the reasons I was pushing for. I can't wait for outpost mechanics, because when we have that entire collection of outposts, I think it will be really cool, because we'll have. I want lighting. I want mirrors on the rooftops.
Yeah, we can make our own like Hollywood studios.
Yes, we can recreate the moon landing. No, I'm kidding. But,
The moon landing was in Star Citizen the whole time.
it was just 50 years later. But like, I mean, honestly, like a lot of these things are just exciting to me. I think jump mechanics and jump drives in general are something that will differentiate small ships from big ships. You have like a Hornet, for example, a Super Hornet that has a QED drive on board. It can simply warp to the farthest reaches of a system. But being able to jump drive between different locations and entirely different systems will be something reserved for larger ships, or you will book passage on a larger ship and say, hey, I'm going to sit as a passenger on this thing. I'm going to sit on a Genesis, and I'm going to ship my 3 different small fighters on a Herc or something else an Orgmate has or an NPC has, and they will meet me there once I get to the other side. And that's something I think a lot of people need to wrap their heads around, is there's going to be a lot of mechanics in this game that are deprived to you if you don't have a big ship, unless you're in an org or want access to an NPC capacity.
That just like sparked my brain into this other like just side mission. What's the passenger carrier? The Starfarer?
Genesis, the Starfarer Genesis.
Yeah, that one. You're on that, and it's going through one of those warp gates, jump points,
Yeah.
and an engine blows up in the middle of it. It then goes off. Now you're like out in the middle of space. And I mean, do you want to survive? Do you want to put out a beacon? There could be pirates, but you have to take that chance. And then
That's
that
true.
gives a mission to someone else to come and find you. It just adds this whole tree of extra missions that you also get to be a part of because you were one of the passengers.
Exactly. On Friday, the EU features team was on live inside Star Citizen. I have a video to that as well. I'll put on the end cap of this video. They talked endlessly about, do you want to risk putting out safe help me messages when it comes to loot mechanics, and also for pressure mechanics. So they talked about how if you go too deep into Crusader, you'll actually break stuff, and you might break important things. So you might be free floating, and now you need to get request help. And do you make that request? And also they talked about loot mechanics, as in somebody can steal your stuff if they're bad guys and you don't win the fight when they show up. And then they'll be able to sell that at black market vendors, which they're adding in very soon.
Or are you a pirate org who purposely outfits your ships to be able to handle such pressures, and you keep your org inside the dense clouds of Crusader?
There you go. Hunt for Red October style. You know, suddenly you're the threat, you know, and maybe you put fake beacons out, you know, like, hey, I need help down here. And you know, only a certain amount of types of ships can support the ability to go into those pressures. And most of them are not combat vessels, if not any of them are combat vessels. So I'm a big proponent of, on Crusader, Orson should be able to have javelins and hull Ds and hull Es be able to dock. But whenever I say those words, I mean the upper atmosphere where the system main planetary services are. I don't mean those deep areas where the pressure is incredibly strong. For example, the Endeavor cab is built for being able to go into the hull of a star, able to go into the material of a star, and be able to get extremely close and collect samples and things like that for science. So one of the few ships that we currently have that's designed to go into the depths of Crusader will likely be the hull of an Endeavor cab, which isn't even in the game yet. So it's like the options are pretty limited. pardon me, and the Endeavor is not exactly one of the best options because it's not in that game. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's a whole new world. So up above we have jump point mechanics and micro jump drives to think about, and then jump drive modules and the micro jump points that we're testing. And then we also have below inside planet coming up in 3.14 Crusader pressure effects. As you go deeper into Crusader, will there be things to explore, and will there be safety features there, being able to go into those areas as pirates or be able to go into those areas as scientists trying to escape those trying to attack you? So that's a very interesting mechanic. Crusader's a huge place. You know, we've lived in the shadow of it as part of PO for ages. Nobody ever notices it because there's nothing there. There's no planet to land on. There's no minerals to mine. There's nothing there. But now with Orison being rolled out, it's going to be fleshed out a lot more. It's a shame that they didn't add the micro jump point to Orison, but I can understand why they would use somewhere longer distance, like Microtech and New Babbage, the city that's on Microtech. It's just interesting to note. I find it an exciting place, and yeah.
I agree with you that it should have been on Crusader, even if the other one did stay on Microtech, because like I was saying like way before, like depending on your ship, that's like a 10-minute jump.
Yeah, it is. That's a considerable amount of time for most players. Like, if you think about most players, like an hour or two is a good gameplay experience, because you got people factoring in 30Ks, you got people factoring in, hey, it takes a while to get your workmates set up. Think of how many times for us when we're shooting divisions, how many times it took us maybe even a half hour to organize everybody together to go into the shoot, into the same server.
Yeah, half the time we're like a half an hour in and we haven't even started the game yet.
Exactly. So
and then it's like an extra 15-20 minutes just to get to our ships.
Exactly. And we all have to, pre-set up on PO or wherever we're setting up in Hurston. That all can be avoided with micro jump drives, with micro jump points, utilizing jump drives. Being able to suddenly spawn at the station above Hurston, or, we prefer would be Orison, as the new planet to be, where everybody wants to hang out, and be able to hit a jump point and suddenly teleport over, essentially. In under 30 seconds, you are at this new location in the deep outer space of Stanton. That would be pretty useful. I think a lot of orgs would use that and take advantage of it.
Here's a question for you. Going back to the video, so when the carrot comes up to the gate is obviously on. And I think I remember you saying something about how the carrot being a prime example because it's got like this special jump drive in it.
Yes.
So obviously this is a dual technology that is reliant upon one another. The gate obviously has its own technology, probably, who knows, holding the point in space where the gate opens. I don't know yet. We don't know the lore. I mean, as far as I know, we don't know the lore.
And even look at it. It doesn't look like it's UEE. I know that's kind of a cheap shot by me, but like, look at the way that gate looks. It does not look human. So
no.
I definitely get experience in what you're talking about.
Yeah, so the gate is its own technology, and then we have a jump drive to be able to interact with whatever said gate technology that is. Now, the micro jumps, though, do you think that those will use our current quantum drives to make use of them? Or do you think the technology will be housed in those gates themselves?
That's a fantastic question.
Like, do we need a special drive to use micro jumps?
I believe you will. And I hate to say it as a cynic. The cynic in me, I have a little bit of cynicism. And I think the cynic in me is saying that you will need that micro jump drive to sell bigger ships. I could see an exploration pack being sold, like a new version of the $660 USD exploration pack being sold just for this capacity. Like, hey, we got this new exciting jump point system, and if you want to test it, here happens to be a ship system that has this thing, and it'll be even more heavy priced because it is not in the same time period. Prices of ships have rapidly gone up, not just because of the price of ships, but also because a lot more places are taxing them than they used to for digital download purchases. So
Yeah.
it's something to think about there. And I think that will be an unfortunate side effect. Now, some of the ships that have jump drives are purchasable in-game. So that is, I guess, one thing to mention here. So just to kind of cut down on my cynicism a little bit, maybe hedge my bets. But I can't help but notice like things like this. Stargate SG-1, having its dial system where it dialed in the echelons, it did all 7 of them or whatever on this NPM system. And I can't help but like notice like a lot of like the implications. Once again, it's like an ancient technology that we don't know much about, but we starting to figure it out enough so that we can make things work. That seems to me, I think you're on the ball there. I think this is a technology that's beyond our time. We took advantage of, and we ride that wave. And it's something that can be, we're gonna have to learn just like they learned, And there might be like these tiny little these items, and we don't know what the heck they mean. It doesn't matter if they look like this or not. It matters that we
Yeah.
don't understand them, and we might have to dial in different locations, a lot like the SG-1 team and the Atlantis teams later, and the SG-2 and all the away teams had to figure out. Huge SG-1 fan. But, have to figure out, and we might find out, like, holy God, the ancient ships have these on board, like the SG-1 team found out. And, we might have to find that out. In fact, this is a terrible shot because there is no MacGyver in this corner. So sorry for any fans of SG-1. Yes, I know that is not our boy, but but the rest of the team is there. But so this is something to think about, that we don't have, all of the knowledge. And I think that will help with the exploration mechanics that we will face as we go into these scary new systems and exciting new places that these jump points lead us to. And they might not be desirable positions. They might be full of pirates. They might not have the exact information that we're looking for. So you might have a ship designed for different sciences. I recently got into the Reliant Mako, and that was an exciting ship for me. The Reliant Mako has a newscaster video camera on board. And it has, hang on one second, let me see if we got a picture of it. Yeah, of course. God bless Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever it is. But this is the Reliant Mako. And this ship has an excellent optical package, and it has an empty utility cap right now down here. And in the video I just covered a couple days ago, reviewing the Reliant Mako, I covered that this cap seems to be a utility mount that can be used with different utility things. And one of my viewers noted that mount could be replaced with other utility features. So like the Reliant Sen, which is a completely different kind of ship that has science features on the end of it. So the Reliant Sen has a sensor package on the end of it that looks awfully like the Reliant Mako, but it is not the same. It is a science package, and if you note, these panels on the back are designed to collect infrared information. It said, I think, something like that in the lore. And this right here is not an optical package; it is an infrared package and other things like that. So being able to put on the end of the Mako, say, that sensor science package on the other end, now all of a sudden you have a zoom optical, and you have the science package on the other end of the Mako, or vice versa. If you have a Sen, you could put both on the same equipment. So it will take a lot of creative, MacGyvering by science-minded individuals to make these ships work. You will need multiple different kinds of sensor packages. You will need to get creative with your builds, because you might not know what's on the other side of these locations. And if it isn't pirates, thankfully, then you will need as many different legs up as you can. The Endeavor is a good example of a capital class vessel that's not coming anytime soon, but when it does, you will have general sciences, biological sciences, research-minded pods that have different types of capacities, heck, a telescope that can view through before you jump through. That's an example of a ship that covers all the bases, but you have to pick and choose which bases it covers. So,
Yeah, I think you only get like what, 4 pods in that?
it's a 3x3 grid, I think.
Oh, more than I thought.
So, for example, though, the Hope class is a 2x1 hospital and then a 1x1 hangar. So that's all you get. You get the hospital and you get a hangar that can fit 2 Cutlass Reds involved, so they can be ambulances to move back and forth the players that are heavily injured during a fleet fight or a FPS type situation on the ground. And then you also have to factor in the safety of the ship. You can't put this right on top of the fight. You have to put this at a distance. Whereas other science vessels, even the Endeavor itself, can be put in a scenario that's maybe a little more sketchy, but you send only part of it. The pod on the front of the Endeavor or the Apollo we talked about yesterday.
Yeah, like the Endeavor may be able to take the pressure of a star, but it is not built for combat.
Not at all. And that's one of the big things about science vessels in general is the Carrack is an anomaly. The Carrack has like this military pedigree that very few other ships have. The Reliance don't have it. The Freelancer DUR doesn't have it. The Terrapin technically has it, but they said in the Q&A for the Terrapin that it has military scanning capacity. It will not have science scanning capacity, at least on paper at this point. So they're going to kind of start differentiating. Just because you see a medium or a large scanner or a capital class scanner on a ship, it will not necessarily mean it's good for sciences or military. You have to pick. So, for example, the Polaris has a capital class scanning array on board right now. But that's really meant to be a military scanning array to find targets for its gigantic torpedoes and kind of keep it out of harm's way because it doesn't have a lot of armor or shields. Whereas the Endeavor might have, these big fancy scanners and all these scientific capacities, but it's not meant for attacking enemy ships. So I don't know where I was going with that.
It might be able to see old, like energy signatures that have maybe been gone for like a week or something. Oh, hey, I remember this scene. I used that in episode 1.
Wanderers.
I put the audio on just for the heck of it. I've had it muted for most of this because it's good. We're having a great discussion, and I'm loving this.
Oh yeah. No, I was just like looking back at the screen, like, oh, I remember this.
I don't remember it in play, but I'll go with it. I love it.
Yeah, it's in episode 1 where Twig does this speech of like, what are we doing here?
There?
Oh, the data running that we're doing.
Yeah.
It was more than that.
Yeah, I think I take like 1 second of that scene.
I use the heck out of CIG stuff, and I give them full credit. Please, CIG, I love you guys.
They have some great
Stranger
footage.
in my own world.
Yeah.
I set out to find my path.
I can't wait for them to like come out with more episodes of the one with the MSR and
the 2 gals on the MSR.
Yeah. Yep,
I really enjoyed
the
that.
2 girls.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Heck yeah. I really enjoyed that. And I like the custom, they clearly did some motion capture for that because they have like animations that are clearly not normal in that. And I'm cool with that. I look forward to us being able to be content creators and utilize those animations. I hope that we can get those.
The biggest thing that confuses me about that show is in the one scene where the like fugitive is like, hey, I smell a fire back there. And then the pilot goes back to go fix it. And you can see she's clearly in like some access bay, but I have no idea what access bay
Through all
that
my
is.
travels, for all the trials of the unknown.
And you know the MSR pretty well. I suspect you know where everything is.
Yeah.
All the different camera angles you've captured.
It is our main filming location. And like, because there's the red lights, And the red lights come in like very few areas, unless this could be what it is like maybe because the ship was damaged or something, it has the like the red emergency lights on, so it's just making the whole scene look different. It could be that. Because otherwise, I know the red lights come on in the underbelly,
Yeah.
but like you wouldn't go. It seems like she makes it to where she wants to fix something and back too quickly for it to have been in one of the underbelly tunnels.
Even if she used
I
a
don't know.
ladder or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, this is like just some wild speculation at this point, but yeah.
That's the fun of this. I think I said to you, and I'll full disclosure, I said to Ash that it seems like we have two different communities, two different groups of people in this community that are listening to these videos and checking them out. Is that we have a group of folks that watch the first like 2 minutes, and if I'm lucky, hit the like button and they appreciate the facts at the beginning. And then we have another group of folks that watch the entirety of the video and tell me like, hey, if this thing was an hour long, I'd still watch it. I love the content that you're covering, and I love getting more information about the ships I love, the system I love, and just everything about Star Citizen. And that's kind of where we kind of went with this in this episode. So we had like a compressed bit, and then what else?
It's almost like a podcast at this point.
Yeah, certainly. And you know, the Focusrite and the CL1 sitting on my desk certainly confirmed that a little bit. But like, I mean, at this
Oh well,
point,
hey, I got a Focusrite on mine as well, so
Focusrite gang, right up
yeah.
next.
Though you got the like 6i6 if I remember right.
An older one, yeah. I went and surfed all the stores and found one at a discount that was a demo unit and grabbed it, and I'm very happy with it. But at the same time, it's yeah.
I've been part of the Focusrite group for 2 days. So far, really liking it.
But that's kind of the excitement of this. I think like anybody can pick up Star Citizen and they can kind of go in it. You choose, to quote Edward Norton in Fight Club, you choose your level of involvement. You know, like you can pick this up for 2 hours. You can have a good time. If you have friends like that, please encourage them. Don't go crazy with investing. Encourage them to pick up like a nice Pisces, for example. That's a ship that you can pick up multiple different contracts with. You can pick up box runs with. You can fit 3 guys on board if you need to as like a shuttle. You can do 50 different things with it.
It is a pretty sweet ship.
Right? Don't go whole hog. And if you want to go more cargo minded, go with the Nomad. Go with something like that.
The Nomad is amazing.
Exactly. And you could pick something like that and stick with it. Or if you're looking for more long-term and you have a little more flush for cash or credit, you know, you've already invested in Star Citizen, there's plenty of other good options. The Banyu Merchantman is a great example. The Endeavor are great examples. But on a smaller scale, there's a lot of good moves right now. The Taurus, for example, if you're still listening to this, the Taurus is going to shoot like a beanstalk very, very, very soon.
And then there's like the Penguin.
Well, yes.
I don't remember what it's called.
Avenger.
That's it. The Avenger.
The Avenger's
I'm sorry,
a solid ship.
I do not like that ship.
I don't like the ship either. I think the Titan has a special place in my heart because it was before the Pisces. If the Pisces didn't exist, the Avenger would be amazing. And I had a discussion with one of the community about the I-100 series. I don't dislike the I-100 series. It's just the Pisces exists. The Pisces has 3 seats, and the seats will matter very, very soon, where if you don't click in, your body's going to be thrown around like a rag doll when you go to exit into space from Atmo. It's going to be painful.
I see the other point of it, though. Like, the reason for the Avenger and the... Shoot, what was the other one? Not the Pisces.
100i, the Nomad.
Yeah, that one. They have beds.
Yes. Sorry, I didn't mean to yell in
the mic. Pisces does not.
The Pisces does not have beds. It's true. It's meant to. It was originally envisioned to be like the Carrack's Parasite stump fighter in a good way. And honestly,
it's a
the full-fledged
DS9
Pisces,
fighter.
Yes, it was meant to be that small shuttle, indeed, and it's solid for what it is. Arguably, dare I stare? I don't want to get it nerfed, but It has a bit too much SCU for what it should be, for how many seats it has. But that's a topic for another day. I don't want to get it nerfed. But it's a good all-arounder. And
I got a good question for the next roundup show for this. So I'll tell you about that later. But I think there will be a lot of discussion and comments for it.
Definitely. And I think we covered a lot today. I guess we can call it a day. Is there any last thoughts you had or anything else you wanted to cover, Ash?
Not really. Like, we talked pretty in depth about these jump points. Like, what are they going to do? Who made them? Why? Well, actually, we didn't really go into why, but that's pretty evident. It's just to expand.
Yep.
Be it either through science or through military conquest. That's pretty evident. No, we went through tons of speculation, but yeah, we can't draw any conclusion. We don't know enough about the lore. But I do think that we've hit a couple of nails on the head, and we just need to wait and see what happens.
Exactly. And you're always welcome back. And definitely when the jump points are in, I would love to do another video covering this with you. This was awesome. And be able to
Heck yeah.
do the summary of this, like what we actually know now. And take away the rumors and kind of kill that fruit of the moment mentality and kind of review deeply about how it impacts gameplay and testing all these different factors, maybe even bring some faces that we know. But yeah, I've been Red J. This is Distilled with Red J. I wanted to thank my special co-host today. This is the first time I've done this, but AweSmAsh, please be sure to scroll down in the description and check out her channel, and be sure to check out. I'll also put the link directly to Divisions episode 1, and right off of that one we have episode 2 as well.
Yep.
It's been fantastic.
It's been awesome. Thanks for having me.